Welcome back to The Night Shift, your safe space for talking about UFOs, UAPs, NHI, disclosure, Tic Tacs, and everything else your friends, family, and coworkers are so sick and tired of hearing you go on and on and on about. We're making contact one conversation at a time, and today is a very special episode because we have a very special guest. He's only with us for a few minutes. We got him for just about an hour, maybe a little less, maybe a little more if we're lucky. Simon Holland is with us, and he's joining us with our panel of experts. Pavel from Psicoactivo, Xander, producer Xander, host of Dreamland Motel, Erik Schlimmer, the UAP therapist and founder of Outcome Counseling, and of course, last but certainly not least, black belt in martial arts and master of the Dim Mak Death Touch, Dan Cleary, host of Others from Another Mother. Welcome, gentlemen.
Hi.
Hey,
that
Clint.
is like,
I'm trying to come up with some new thing each week, but I it's sometimes got to roll
You
with
cracked it. It was good.
Guys, it's been a really big kind of news week in the UAP UFO world. Ross Coulthart dropped something of an information bomb on this community just the other day. Xander has the clip pulled up so that for people who aren't aware of what happened, let's take a look at that, and then we'll come back and get your reactions.
Okay.
I'm going to leave you with one thought today, Bryce. I now know categorically that the Tic Tac is Lockheed Martin technology.
Wow.
okay.
Wow.
The Tic Tac is Lockheed Martin technology. Why are we being lied to? This is the issue. Why is the United States government now participating at White House executive level in collusion with the national security state to keep secret the fact that they've made these advances? I suspect.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Short but sweet.
Short but sweet.
Yeah.
Simon, you put out a fantastic video, which I have linked to in our show notes for this episode, if anybody wants to go see it. And we can also have one of our mod team put it up in the chat as well, responding to this news. But can you talk a little bit about the content of that video and how you got there?
Sure. I have no idea if it's Lockheed Martin. My information very much came from Jeremy Reese and a fantastic researcher called Joshua Bertrand, who contacted me like nearly 2 years ago and sent me a patent of a device that's called an aerogel vacuum drone. And the big thing that Ross asked in his clip is, why don't we know about it? Well, I think we don't know about it because it's not military at all. It's Department of Energy commissioned, maybe Lockheed Martin, to produce it in the end. All I know is about the original technology that might be the technology that Commander Fravor and the Nimitz Task Force might have seen. And I'll go through why I think it's not alien. It is that it was the Department of Energy commissioned their laboratory in Los Alamos with a very big people who run that laboratory to make a lighter than air long surveillance craft. Here's their patent. So this is real stuff. My question to your viewers is, what's lighter than air? And everybody goes, hydrogen. Well, actually, what's lighter than hydrogen is a vacuum. But the problem is with a vacuum is a vacuum craft would implode because you would have to have a very strong kind of skin to stop it being crushed. And in fact, even in the 16th century, somebody worked out if you made two big balloons and took all the air out of it, it would make a UFO craft that would be buoyant because the air pressure underneath would hold up a vacuum. But it collapsed, or the balloons would have to be so thick. What Los Alamos has done, thank you, Jeremy and Joshua, is they've made this metallic foam called Aeroloy, which has cellular structure with no air in it. It contains a vacuum, and if you get enough of it, about 40 feet, this is ironic, and make it into maybe a shape a bit like a Tic Tac, and in the patent they have a drawing of the of what they're proposing might work. A 40-foot long, there is. Oh, it's a strange shape. We've seen that somewhere else. A 40-foot long Tic Tac buoyant craft could be used for what's called pseudo satellites. This is for the NRO to do long loitering, high altitude surveillance using SAR radar and optical stuff. Probably the same stuff as Ashton Forbes has been looking at, to go over a zone like Gaza or Iran and stay up there. It doesn't have to have it much horizontal speed. It just needs to station keep, but it needs to be up 70 or 80,000 feet, and it's invisible because it's so high, and you can cover it with metamaterial so it diffracts radar, and it just is a long loitering drone. And these are deployed. These are deployed.
Wow.
So the next, and I went, oh, that's really interesting. I like the vacuum technology. So where would Los Alamos, when they were coming up with it, test it? Well, you would test it, and this is my private pilot background. You would test it in something called an MOA, a military operational area, where you can go out and test exotic propulsion. Oh, there's one just off the coast of San Diego. And MOAs can be used by multiple agencies, and maybe at the time that the Nimitz were doing their exercise, which was a really big carrier group with the Princeton and the Nimitz carrier group, the MOA might be able to be used by a different agency who were testing exotic propulsion. So I looked into that. I contacted the San Diego controller, and I said, what are your rules for that MOA that the Nimitz thing happened? And he says it's subsea to space, and independent contractors can test exotic technology. And as long as everybody's communicating, that's fine. That obviously broke down, because obviously the Nimitz exercise, as Fravor says, and many times, had to stop. He was sent out to find out what the bugger was flying over there that they'd seen on the radar. They'd seen them going up and down, and he saw this Tic Tac shape. That's as far as I know. Whether it's Lockheed Martin have gone in production with them, it just all adds up, and I just wanted to put that out. I mean, it could still be a non-human technology, but it's in a military operational area where devices such as the Tic Tac, if it was man-made, would be tested. I always say, when I've been doing this Rendlesham Forest investigation, you need to ask this big question: why Rendlesham Forest? Why off San Diego? Do any of you other guys get that logic? Why are alien craft, if it is NHI, seen in a FAA closed airspace to protect? They wouldn't. They would be flying over Pavel's house or my house in France. Come on, guys. It was in a military operational area where you can test this kind of technology. Whose it was, what it was, I don't know. But I like the story that Jeremy Reese and Joshua brought me, and the patent. For me, it kind of adds up. They don't share the truth, but that I don't shy away from reporting what I hear. What do you guys think?
Guys, what do you think?
Well, I mean, what Commander Fravor described is something that has characteristics that I don't know. They're not, just don't seem normal. And if you see Kevin Knuth describing these characteristics from a physics standpoint, it becomes difficult to place this as like just a loitering drone, Right. So I guess it's whatever Commander Fravor experienced. I think that he's one of the best trained pilots at the time, and I think one of the best ever from the Top Gun Academy. So, I mean, they call him Sex Fravor. They don't call him Sex Fravor for nothing, It's yeah. And I prefer, in my opinion, to just trust whatever he experienced he
Yeah.
deems anomalous or that he didn't understand what type of physics was being used with that
Well,
object. But I do want to say something though, because I do think that there is a lot of smoke with not just the Tic Tac, but a lot of the black triangles that have appeared over time, and a lot of the lore of the ARVs, which did not come from Dr. Stephen Greer. He made it popular, but that was a term that was already known in the UFO space. ARVs, alien reproduction vehicles, and there have been plenty of different stories, because there's stories. I mean, it's
yeah,
let's be clear about that. But they're very compelling. The Mark McCandlish story comes to mind, and
right.
he did die under mysterious circumstances. The dude that made a documentary about him
Yeah.
died under mysterious circumstances. So there is mysterious stuff happening around those topics, as if people didn't want us to know that aerospace companies are creating some type of technology and that they maybe possibly crack some type of new propulsion back in the 50s. There's a Thomas Townsend Brown story. I mean,
Right.
there's a lot of information that points towards that, isn't it?
To your point, real quick, Pavel. Also, didn't those Boeing whistleblowers both get murdered or unalived?
Yes, they did.
Not too long ago, and that wasn't over anything nearly as sensitive
Right.
as what we're talking about. That was just
Yeah.
like lawsuit.
Yeah.
Right,
And
right.
people keep trying to say that it's not true that people die because of the UFO topic. Dude, the Phil Schneider passed away mysteriously. McCandlish, this director that I tell you about, I'm sorry, but I'm going to name
Eskridge.
her Amy
Yeah.
Eskridge. And
Yeah.
they all passed away under mysterious circumstances. We can't ignore that. And it is because they were trying to talk about this specific topic, about these aerospace companies mentioning or trying to
Right.
working on this secret black technology.
But could it be, Pavel, that it could both things be true? Like maybe we aren't able to completely reverse engineer and build a UFO from scratch, but we get insights and advances maybe that put us 50 years ahead of materials technology, and that maybe lets us make something like this. So maybe there is truth to both sides. There could be
Yeah.
UAP derived
What
technology.
what I don't
Right.
like is people going, no, it's completely black technology, or people going, no, it
Right.
is just NHI. Both things are happening, guys.
Right.
I
Sure.
think so. I think so.
As the
Simon-
voice. Sorry, yeah, Dan, you go.
Dan.
Simon, you asked a question a few minutes ago. Why Rendlesham and why off the coast of San Diego? And if I'm not mistaken, there are nukes at Rendlesham, and there's also nukes on aircraft carriers in
Right.
the ocean where the Tic Tac was seen. So that answers your question, kind of, why UFOs might be there as well.
Definitely. Looking at the Ransom Forest incident, one thing that we've discovered is everybody talks about the NATO US Air Force Base Bentwaters. In fact, Bentwaters had a very small nuclear store of tactical air-to-air nuclear missiles, but, here, drumroll, bunk, the US and British government didn't want everybody to know that Woodbridge was something called a nuclear forward base where they hide hydrogen bombs. So, and those are the forward bases are if the US gets taken out and can't retaliate, Britain, Holland, Italy, and maybe Turkey have these forward bases, which are dual key. So there was, yes, absolutely. There was tons of nukes. And then looking into the technology of this thing called Cobra Mist, it attracted UAP, and UAP were seen over the nuclear power station, which is called Sizewell, which is the world's biggest nuclear power station, which was powering these experiments for Britain mainly. So yeah, you're right. Nukes. There's something about nukes that attract UAP, but where's the Tic Tac? Attracted by nukes? I don't think so. I think it was being tested.
Okay.
Erik, Xander, you guys have any thoughts you want to add?
Yeah, so this is all great information. I really appreciate Simon sharing this. I didn't know any of this.
Right.
But I have a question because I don't know much about if this is human tech,
Right.
what it can do, right? So if it is lighter than air and it can hover at 80,000, is there any evidence that it can also accelerate from 0 to 40,000 to 0 in 0.78 seconds, because that's what the Tic Tac did.
Right.
So it might be able to
No.
perform some characteristics that we would find mysterious,
Right.
but I'm not sure if it could do those other things.
No, exactly. It can't, absolutely. And there's a bit of confusion over what Fravor, who's wonderful, by the way, said. I very much quoted what he said in Congress and under testimony, that he never talked about it going horizontal. The whole horizontal thing was like an extrapolation of going from where he saw it to his CAP or CAP point. And he never actually saw it going horizontal. He just saw it going vertical. But, you're absolutely right. And Pavel mentioned Kevin Knuth. I mean, his physics on the acceleration and the G-forces, which were recorded, I think, by the Princeton, seeing it going up and down, is not characteristic at all of a damn balloon. I mean, it's a very sophisticated balloon, and I think I don't know the speed of a vacuum evacuated 40-foot object. I mean, people can work that out, but it's certainly not the speed that the Princeton saw. So no, absolutely, it wasn't, and it doesn't move horizontally. If it has these long loitering drones, but by the way, they do exist. This isn't made up. I mean, were they testing them? I don't know. It looked like one. They don't need horizontal movement. They have small station keeping fan ducted engines just to keep them in a circle over Gaza or wherever. But no, there's the movement that they saw and recorded on radar is completely not emblematic of a vacuum drone. Absolutely no.
If you don't mind me, I'll just be the voice from the beyond, because there's no room for me on the screen right now. I did a little bit of digging into. We're talking about vacuum airships, effectively, really here, aren't we?
Right.
So, using conventional practical materials, it's you set one of these things off, it's not going to go anywhere near the speed of sound.
Nope.
On a great day, it's not going to crack 150 miles per hour vertically. That's just based on the physics and the current materials that we have available.
Okay.
So there's at least something novel happening. I actually do fully agree with your assessment that it's probably man-made in some way, and that its use as a drone, as a surveillance drone, actually makes a lot of sense.
Right.
And the fact that they would be testing it in one of these areas, perhaps even they would be testing it against our own military, because you don't want to test it against a foreign military. But the fact remains, yes, the speed in which it reached altitude, it would have to break the known laws of physics that we know right now.
Or its payload could be some kind of radar jamming equipment that just throws out all kinds of scrambled data and just confuses your sensors. And maybe that's what it is. Maybe it's designed, maybe the test is to see whether or not their instruments can actually pick it up doing the things that it's doing. Because I'm thinking about this, and Simon, I am not a pilot, but I have taken a few lessons, and I have to say, everyone keeps talking about pitot tubes on this thing. Why would it have pitot tubes on it?
Well, pitot tubes are a ram air system for the for that system. It's usually made for speed and altitude. I'm getting it wrong. Sorry, there's a static and ram air, and the pitot tube is the ram air part of that, and all aircraft have them. Does it have a pitot tube? I certainly have seen illustrations post. Graphics that look like they have little pitot tubes, and
that's what I've seen. I'm assuming that it had that enough. But Fravor would actually be the one to probably confirm that one way or the other. But aside from that, I just want to point out one other thing, just as I'm thinking about this. If it is a vacuum balloon, the shape of the craft, the other most stable shape that would make sense to make such a device is an egg.
Is an egg, yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
And it would look just like this, but an egg.
Sure. Well, I think, Jeremy and Josh shared this patent from Los Alamos, and they say the shape that they're experimenting with is a rounded egg-shaped, elongated, look like a flying gas tank. And they mention the length, ironically, is about 40 feet, which is, it just all adds up. But the physics, everybody doesn't add up. I don't know what's going on. Sir, the one thing that I'd really also like to say, I think it's very important, and I think you've talked about it, Clint, mentioned it, is that I don't think necessarily the DoD know what the DOE are doing. I don't think they need to be told. So both can use those MOAs with controlling authority communication. And I don't think that the Department of Energy building it and looking at those kind of devices for the NRO and maybe commissioning in the end Lockheed Martin or somebody to build them would tell the Navy. It's not ever used by the Navy. It's not deployed by the Navy. And then somebody said to me, I think this is, I don't know, it could be just a wild card idea, is why not get the very, very best of the best? Oh, let's get Commander Fravor to actually fly out rather than some rookie pilot to see eyeballs and see what he thought he could see. I mean, it's still complicated. The physics is wrong, but the technology exists.
Xander made a really great point. Xander, before we went live, can you talk about what you said before? It was awesome.
I say a lot of awesome stuff. What did I say?
That's true. But no, you were talking about where would they test it? If they were really going to, you wouldn't test it against Chinese pilots.
Yeah.
You can't test it anywhere else. You have to test it somewhere where you know it's going to be safe, and you know the only people who are going to look at it have clearance, at least some clearance.
Yeah. Right.
If I was that way inclined, if I was working for the military-industrial complex, I would want, and if I had good intentions, if I wanted that technology, if anything were to go wrong, to fall into the right hands, I would test this in a place where I know it's safe. I would test it in American waters. I wouldn't test it over land because I don't know what's going to happen to this thing. I would test it in a place where if it comes down, we can have a crash retrieval team and we can shut everybody up using American law, basically.
And to your point, Xander, it makes a lot of sense that you would let the people run with the UFO thing. Let them run with that.
Of course,
let them go with it. It gives you such a smoke screen. You can do anything.
I completely agree.
Well, there's also no reason now for the people that are actually the air traffic controllers in control of that conglomerate airspace to say anything. They don't have to say that Lockheed or the related department booked that area for the time.
I wish they would.
Need to say that. Yeah, it'd be great if they did. But if they did, it would give us the information that we are literally not cleared to know. So it's best we don't know in their eyes.
I think we solved it, guys. I think that's... I'm just kidding.
Show done. Show done.
No, well, you feel like, I've spent the whole day replying, my little fingers are worn to the bone, replying to people asking really sensible questions about NHI, UFOs and things, because they want that. They want it to be that. And also, I have to say, sadly, the UFO community say, but we saw it. It was the gimbal. No, that's a different, or what about the goat fat? Well, that, come on. Different. And what about the ones in the 50s? You can't say it's human. Come on, guys. UAPs are real, and they all have to be assessed separately. There's lots of stuff out there. UAPs are a global phenomenon, and we have to assess each one case by case. There's no correlation between them.
That's a good point.
As you said, Simon, in the beginning of the show, you made such a great point. If it's a real UFO, where it shows up is going to be a huge clue. Like if it shows up at the aerial school children situation where these kids are outside playing, and then here's this thing. Like, okay, that's probably not ours. Right. But yeah, sure. Over the test area. Can you talk about? I want people to watch your video, so please go there. But can you touch on the belt buckle thing? Just tease people about.
All right. Okay. Well, let me tell you how I work as a filmmaker. I'm bold and foolish and old enough to say anything. I spent my entire life working for broadcast, PBS, BBC, National Geographic, and I know lots of interesting stories which don't get on TV. That was the idea. So I've got a lot of contacts behind the scenes, and I got this great story. He asked me not to say who he was, but he works for a large American I'm about to say its name, a large American computer company who does processing for SAR, synthetic aperture radar. And he said one of the most amazing things about synthetic aperture radar are, one, they need to hide the server farms when they come online because they get hot, so the enemy can see that a mission is underway because the data needs to be processed so much.
Wow.
So they put them underwater, and they need to cool them. A lot of them are underground because you get a heat signature when the Pentagon are going, "What's that?" And the server farm has to come up to temperature. And then he said this amazing thing. He said, and of course we can track the molecular weight of anything. I was like, what? He said, yeah. So, for example, one of the missions, I almost don't want to share this, but I will. One of the missions that the U.S. Department of Commerce wanted to know is how many EV battery motors were being made by a large company in South Korea. That's all I'm going to say. And they wanted numbers. And they had one. They'd bought the vehicle. They measured it. They weighed it. And then using SAR, they can just go SAR, how many of these exact molecular weight batteries are rolling off the production line. It's cheaper than sending spies or asking them, I suppose. Wow. And then he said, and of course, we can track every U.S. In the Army because of their belt buckle. I went, what? He said... I went, well, he said, if you've got a belt buckle that are made by an incredibly sophisticated company in Massachusetts, look at them. Ask the question, who makes belt buckles for the Army? Yeah, they are very, very specific molecular weight. So he said, well, on a battlefield, we can see where our troops are, or sadly, if one's fallen, we can go to their position because the belt buckle is identified. It's an offshoot of SAR. Supposedly, it was one of the things that they did in the early Mercury mission when they were looking for nuclear weapons in Cuba. They knew this side effect, and the astronaut, I'm so terrible, I forget his name, who was looking for flying over Cuba, found all this gold in sunken Caribbean wrecks because the instrument he had in the Mercury capsule could do molecular weight, and that's what we do today. It's a side effect of SAR, which I'd never heard about. That's good. It's interesting.
That's brilliant. I mean, I think I wonder if they would use that for every service person, or would they use it for like special forces people if someone got captured or.
You could have multiple belt buckles, couldn't you? Yeah,
you could have it. Yeah. That's genius.
Yeah, he did tell a far-fetched story. I'm sorry, I'm hogging your broadcast. He did tell a far-fetched story that the CIA gave this is back in the day, they gave the Ayatollah Khomeini in Iran a ring. And they'd measured the molecular weight of the ring, and that was one of the missions: was find the ring, find the man. But wow. It sounds unlikely, but I think looking at that story about the gold, Cooper's gold, you know, we all know, and looking for if Rusky had left missiles in Cuba or on another Caribbean island is true. So it's possible it is a side effect. It's good. Yeah. I mean, that's the kind of thing that people share on me. My little email lights up in the morning, and I do check it out. I do speak to them, and I ask them difficult questions, and then I go, yeah, I buy into this. I'll do a video.
Your inbox must be insane. I can't imagine what your email looks like.
The main thing that makes it insane, I'm a good friend of Jet Sarfati.
Oh my God.
And if you're on that Jet Sarfati email group, which is a kind of a group of about 100 people, it's God.
Chaos. It's chaos.
It's unbelievably funny.
I got out of it early on.
Even Pavel couldn't hang.
It's too much, man. It's too much.
There's nothing too much for Pavel. It must
Yeah,
have
Pavel's,
been bad.
Pavel's the king of contact. This is crazy. Yeah.
Simon, while we have you for a few more minutes, I have a couple of audience questions that I want to run your way. And I had another question for you real quick before we do audience questions. There was another in that Need to Know podcast, the probably the third most interesting thing, aside from Bryce's reaction when he heard what he heard, was Ross talked about the New Jersey drones and Chinese technology. Have you given any thought to this?
No. Nick Pope and I, being old punks, actually, I don't think Nick's a punk. I am. We did a thing about drones in incursions into U.S. Air Force and RAF bases in England. And we are old enough to remember there was this case during civil nuclear CND. There were in the 80s who were against nuclear weapons. They were actually they were working for the Ruskies, and the Ruskies called them useful idiots. So Nick and I had this chat that it's possible that a lot of the drones were people under duress or payment or sympathizers with the Russians who were actually flying them, and they were real drones. That's what. And then they found some of them. The British MI5, found them. No, not MI5. MI5 in Britain. I get confused from America and Britain. Found some of these operators in East Anglia who actually were paid to fly over Lakenheath. I don't know what happened in New Jersey. It's a mess, I think.
It's a mess.
A mess. Yeah.
It's a mess. I think for sure somebody got caught with their pants down, and it's an enormous security hole. And I think that's the thing they're really covering up. These could have been not all of them, but some of them could have been drones launched out of the back of a Winnebago. Yeah. And in the end, like if you have that kind of a capability gap in your detection apparatus, like the risk is astronomical. Audience question from Android Paranormal. This comes through a super chat, and Android Paranormal says, in 1996, the U.S. retrieved a crashed Tic Tac in Varginha, Brazil, that multiple witnesses saw aliens escape from. The only way I could see the 2004 Tic Tac being Lockheed is if they repaired that one.
Okay.
Not exactly a Tic Tac. That wasn't a Tic Tac.
Yeah, I didn't think that was.
This is a cigar shape, and there's something happening the last few days where people are trying to make the Varginha thing a Tic Tac, and it wasn't a fucking Tic Tac. It was a cigar. So let's keep it. Yeah.
Yeah. Thanks for regulating.
Yeah.
That's why you're here.
There's something happening. I don't know what's going on. There's some people are trying to make the Varginha thing a Tic Tac the last 3 days, and it's weird.
Not a Tic Tac.
Yeah.
Dan's you're Corbell's bodyguard, so we're all kind of like took a
I'll
step
crack
back.
some skulls.
Regardless, I think there is a question behind Android. Android Paranormal. I think the question he's really getting at is that prior to 2004, when this was seen, there's been a lot of reports of Tic Tacs, and I don't think that's completely unwarranted.
No.
And I think his question really is, okay, Lockheed Martin, or whoever may have been testing this in this space at that time off the coast of San Diego, wherever it was. How do you explain the older sightings? And I think that's maybe the question he was getting at.
I mean, back in the 19th century, in fact, ironically, the most common sighting of UAP or UFOs were dirigibles, were balloons, because they were the cutting edge technology, and people kept on seeing these lozenge-shaped things. So, no, I think UFOs go in shape order, and you can't. As I said earlier, you just can't put them all in one box. You have to assess every one. There's lots of weird stuff out there.
David Wint asks, why would Lockheed try to divest itself of recovered UFO materials? Both Grush and Elizondo have made that claim.
I don't know.
If that happened, it's probably because they no longer need it. They already used it.
I think it's just a lot of different things all happening at once. It's not like, just because we think UFOs are interesting 24/7, 365. Like the people at Lockheed are making all kinds of different things. There's the hundreds of thousands of employees. There's a lot of different programs. Right. There's probably real UFOs and to his credit, Stephen Greer has said the Lockheed stuff for ever he's talked about that. So it's not like any one thing proves or disproves everything else. It's just a lot going on in one place.
Jack Valet is the man to quote on this. You need to see something highly strange. It has to not have pitot tubes. It doesn't have to be in a military test zone. It needs to be something that you go, I really don't know what I'm looking at. It's a phenomenon, because I think aliens exist and come here and travel multidimensionally and are highly strange. And as soon as it's got flashing red and green lights, as soon as it's at flight levels, as soon as it's got stairs and steps, it's probably not alien. Aliens are weird. Aliens are a phenomenon.
Yeah, a perfect example of that is the light orbs. Those are weird as shit. And they've been spotted for millennia. So those are different, but they do exist. People see them.
They're everywhere.
They're not the same as the drones from Jersey. Those are different. Those seem mechanical.
Was it, I don't know if it was yourself, Simon, or possibly Ross in his podcast, Need to Know. He was talking about or you were talking about the technology also being implanted into what might look like conventional aircraft. So this wasn't you. This must have been
Ross. Yeah.
So I think Ross talked about this technology being implanted into conventional aircraft so that it could be used normally, but when push comes to shove, they can flip the switch and just boom, they're gone. I wondered whether you thought that was a reasonable idea as well.
Well, I mean, plasma. Working with the people from Project Green Glow, which was a BAE Systems looking at a gravity modification, they were interested in making planes lighter, and just looking at gravity really. And in fact, the most interesting thing that came out of that is the connection between gravity and time. But that's a whole great field. But one of the things that they specifically looked at, and maybe was actually deployed, was laminar flow plasma on making a laminar flow on wings, which it's not alien technology, but it's weird stuff. The SR-71 engines had a cone of plasma on the front of it. I mean, that's really, nobody knew about that at the time. It was very cutting-edge physics. The military want a new atom bomb. They want the enemy not to know what's going to hit them. Ever since the Manhattan Project, they want physics. They want something that the enemy don't know about, and that's the kind of arms race we're in. Is China developing, gravity stuff? Is America? Is Europe? Or whoever? Is Russia? Iran? They're very good. I mean, there's lots of things. Everybody is looking for a little advantage, and physics is the big advantage for the military.
It's interesting, the Iran thing, because I was surprised that they had hypersonic missiles. We all kind of just watched that live, and then no one talked about it. They were like, wow, okay, and we all just moved on.
They're a very sophisticated country. Yeah,
that's the reason you were not aware of that is because of the propaganda that floods the internet about other countries, and you get a certain specification of what a country is from a certain provider of this information, and it's not always accurate. Mostly it's propaganda, especially when it's an adversary.
I saw a few years ago, it was the only thing I remember hearing about hypersonics was like 5 years ago, and it was about how the U.S. was behind Russia. They thought Russia was ahead, and they were like, we are trying to catch up to them. And then when Iran used one, it was like, oh, that's it. Yeah, that was a surprise. We've got just a few more minutes, Simon, before you have to take off. But I just wonder what else is on your mind right now. I mean, do you have anything that you're looking at that we haven't talked about that's outside of the Tic Tac world?
I tend to react to what's in the news and what kind of interests me. I'm very proud this year to have, I think, pretty well done my last Rendlesham Forest film, when eventually, after working for 2 years trying to get this antenna engineer to actually come on live and do an interview where he actually said Cobra Mist was a non-nuclear EMP pulse weapon. Very much. And Stanford's research stayed on after that and developed it and tested it probably in Rendlesham. It's drawn a big kind of closure on that. And so, no, I'm just waking up in the morning and reading amazing emails.
I imagine you must get quite a few.
I do.
Well, you got one from us this morning.
Yeah.
You
were on it.
Yeah.
I think I finished your video about 9:15, and I was like, I must drop him an email to see if he's available.
Sure. Yeah, well, thank you very much for having me on. It's a great honor and privilege. I think the UFO community don't always want to hear that it's not aliens, and I mean, I still don't know really what it was. I mean, I think that the physics was extremely strange, but I think there's a lot of coincidences. And MOA, DOE not talking to DOD, Fravor, fantastic sighting, but it's been spun by so many people into different stories. I don't know. Will we ever find the truth? Probably not.
Probably. On that note, we can roll into the weekend. Okay. Simon, thank you so much for taking the time. Appreciate it.
All right. Bye. Bye, chaps.
Bye, Simon.
Bye, Pavel. Bye, everybody. Bye.
See ya.
Bye.
Oh my gosh, that's he's always so great. What a guy.
That was fun.
He's the best. If this Tic Tac thing does turn out to be some kind of like a vacuum balloon, I'm having a hard time seeing how the egg that Jake Barber claims he transported is not very similar in many obvious ways. What do you guys think about that?
I don't know what you mean. Actually, I don't understand.
Jake Barber claimed, the Skywatcher guy,
Mm-hmm.
Jake Barber, he claimed that he transported a craft that looked like a giant white egg.
Yep.
Remember, like a few months ago, this was a huge deal. And
of course.
Ross was talking about, everybody was talking about this giant egg. And it was like, and Stephen Greer was out in front of it, and he was like, these are my guys. And then Ross kind of scooped him on it. And an egg is one of the strongest shapes that nature is capable of producing. It's so, if you were going to make a vacuum balloon, like the Tic Tac, what Ross is saying that the Tic Tac, or what Simon is suggesting it could be based on these patents, the other shape that makes a lot of sense,
I see,
is an egg.
I see,
and it would look, and he described it as basically a big white egg, right? So, like, I'm just wondering what that says, if that says anything at all, or maybe it's just a pure coincidence.
Also, eggs have been like spotted for millennia, which is very, very strange. Alongside the orbs, eggs are the most common shape. They're all over passages of the Bible, paintings from the Quattrocento Italiano, stuff like that you go, so this egg has been around forever as well. And I was just wondering if maybe what we think are Tic Tacs are these eggs just going really fast and looking like a Tic Tac, but it's really an egg. I don't know. That's just a thought that I had just now.
It could be maybe distorted by some kind of field around the craft. Maybe it does, just because it fits the same shape as what's described in the patents doesn't mean that's necessarily what it is. It could be something else. I do think, though, that like to Stephen Greer's credit, I think a lot of what we do see, probably 80-90% of it is terrestrial stuff,
Yes.
right?
Yeah.
But 5-10% of it for sure is definitely not.
Yeah,
I want to know. Okay, go ahead, Erik, please.
Sorry. If you look at MUFON data and other investigators, about 8% are unexplained.
8%. Okay.
So you're right. Yeah, right around 90, they're like satellite, Starlink, something like that.
Yep.
Well, I guess we're all done here.
No, I was wondering if for people that are arguing the Tic Tac being man-made, which I guess it could be, what do we think it might have been interacting with under the water that they keep talking about?
I was thinking about that too.
Yeah.
What launched from
be?
a submarine.
Xander, what do you got? Xander knows.
This is strange because there are two people now in the last year that have said that these drones are launched from a submarine, one of whom is no longer alive, and basically on the first day of this year shot himself inside of a Tesla truck. He said that the drones in Jersey were launched from a Chinese sub off the coast. And again, these vacuum balloon things, again, I don't think this is vacuum balloon technology. It just breaks the laws of physics. But if the idea is that you send up a drone to surveil an area, you would launch it from a submarine. That's the closest place. The closest you can get to a country undetected is with a submarine. So it could disturb the water for a number of reasons. These craft are likely like hydrophobic in some sort of way. I don't think it's like potentially like swimming through the water as you would expect. I think it's literally exiting the water as a missile would, and we know how that works already.
Yep.
But just to point out as well, because I've seen a few people in the comments, Simon wasn't debunking this. This isn't a debunk. This is him trying to make sense of something that is currently unexplained.
It's bunking.
Even if
It's not debunking. He's bunking.
If it's confirmed to be Lockheed Skunk Works, I'm like, great. Because that can, like, this is using exotic propulsion. It's confirming the whole ARV thing to me. Like, he's not saying this is conventional. He at no point he said this is conventional. He just said it's man-made. And I kind of agree with him at this point. I think it's reasonable to assume that. So before people like attack him as a debunker, I don't get his response as any kind of debunk whatsoever. I do think, you know, if we can take down these NHI craft, we're going to make a shit ton of them. Why wouldn't we? Like, if 80%, 90% of what we see is man-made, of course. If we can do it, we will do it.
Well, think about that. I mean, if you can send something from the sea level to space without any like rockets, that's fucking awesome. Like, that's amazing.
And some of those unaccounted trillions, where do you think they go? I mean, they can make loads of those with that money that we don't know where it is, and it's your tax-paying money, Americans.
Sure.
It's not even real money.
You're right. Could they be launched from space? Is that possible? Could they be launched from some kind of carrier in space?
If it was a vacuum balloon, no. Vacuum balloons would. Like, this is why it's not a vacuum balloon. Vacuum balloons still adhere to atmospheric pressure, so as it ascends, it will meet friction. The conventional physics, any sort of material traveling at high rate of speed will cause a buildup of air pressure. And eventually it's going to heat up so much that it completely disintegrates or just gets held back by it, like terminal velocity. Space doesn't have that. So there's no reason for something lighter than the air below it to ascend, basically. So it would have to operate within the atmosphere, and also as it got towards about 80,000 feet, which is about space, it would slow down, because as air thins, it's not got quite so much of an urge to ascend. And that's not what Fravor saw. Fravor saw this thing zip up and disappear.
And also mimicked his moves.
Yeah.
I mean, you know.
This was under intelligent control, 100%.
Erik, you were about to throw some thoughts into this.
Oh, yeah, thank you. I was just agreeing with you. I don't think he was trying to debunk anything. So two things can be true at once. Do we have a lighter than air, kind of like a balloon, a fancy balloon that can just kind of hang out and surveil? Yeah. But when I said, well, you know, the Tic Tac was going really fast, I like that he was comfortable with that. And a lot of this conversation about UAPs is not or is the best way and might be the best way. So we can have this and this. Okay. Regarding the drones being, the New Jersey drones being launched from a sub, no Chinese sub can reach the U.S. That's insane. It can't get within 1,000 miles of U.S. coastline That's not going to happen. I'm less educated on the Jersey drone stuff, but I do know no adversarial sub can reach the U.S. shoreline. No way.
That's my understanding as well.
USOs can.
What's that?
USOs can.
Yeah, thank you. USOs can. Yes, I agree.
Yeah.
I just want to show you guys something I found while I'm looking around on this. I'm just Googling on this topic of lighter than air craft. And check this out. This is a company called JP Aerospace. Look at their homepage.
Oh, Jesus Christ.
Airship to orbit.
Phoenix Lights.
If you want to get to space, you climb on top of a giant fuel tank and light it on fire. There's got to be a better way. The idea is simple. Use an airship to float on top of the airmosphere. Ooh, go marketing team. we're the airmosphere. Then the craft slowly accelerates using electric chemical hybrid rocket engines over days until it reaches orbital velocity. The details are complicated. For an airship to fly at the edge of space, it will need to be big. I mean, really big, over 1 mile long, Phoenix Lights. It would also need to be very light, a gossamer hypersonic airship. Such vehicle is not suited for flight in the lower atmosphere. This is interesting. So they've got these like ideas. Here's, I guess, some test prototypes. And then look at this design. This is their it's called the Dark Sky Station. And it looks like the spokes
Looks
of
like
a wheel.
the craft that Mr. Immaculate showed us back in the day.
Kind of.
The fan that everyone called it, like the ceiling fan.
JP Airship to Orbit PongSat Tandem Ascender. What is the Ascender? High altitude airships. I remember reading a white paper from some think tank many years ago. This was back in the early 2000s, and they were talking about building giant airships that had LED, like basically like an 8K screen as the skin of the craft, and they could project. They could just like show clouds on it, and it would look invisible from the ground. And this was designed to go up to like super high altitude and just loiter. And I was looking for these patents again. This vent placement for drawing ascender from 2003. This might actually be the one. Anyway, this came up. It's kind of interesting. There we go, guys. We solved it.
Case closed.
Could
Case
also
closed.
point out
Podcast.
as
Done.
well. And I really like how we've started the trend of Daddy Greer because it pops up in the chat.
No,
every
you've
time.
started the trend of Daddy Greer. You and the Daddy
Yeah.
Greer. Only
Why
that's
are
a
you
thing.
putting me in
Don't
this?
rope me into this,
I
Daddy
think
Greer.
Pavel,
Although
you
I do
mentioned
say it.
first.
I do say it though. It's your fault.
If that doesn't earn me an interview with him, I don't know what will.
Guys, okay, so for those people watching at home, look, we are seriously entertaining this idea. I am not, sure how serious Xander is, but I feel like we're all pretty serious about sending Xander to spend a few nights under the stars with Dr. Stephen Greer at an event. I don't know when the next one's going to be, but Xander, are you for real? Do you
I'm
want to
deadly serious. I would do it.
you do it?
Yeah, no problem.
We just have to work out the logistics, right?
Yeah, we had a look online. Me and you, we had a look online and saw when the next thing was.
For
There
just
is one thing
$8,000,
this year, but
guys.
It's not quite 8,000, but it's not.
It's like
I'd be
$8,000.
traveling from the UK, so it's not going to be a cheap trip. Obviously, I would help as much as I can.
No, we can't let you go into your pocket. We have to find a way to like crowdfund your trip to see Stephen. Greer. This is going to create amazing content.
Before people again start flooding the chat with like $10 and $20
Don't,
things,
please don't, people.
because this is literally like there are so many things that would have to be worked out before this became an official thing. But in principle, absolutely, I would go in a heartbeat. What I was about to say was Greer was the guy that said this first about the Tic Tac.
You have the clip.
I have it I have it pulled up. We need to give
please show the clip.
Christian Harloff some props for actually pulling this clip because I'm going to play this from his YouTube channel.
Shout out Christian.
Because he had it just queued up, so I will share this now. But this was Stephen Greer's interview with Jesse Michaels.
And David goes, "Oh yeah, that was, it had to be alien." I said, "Sir, with all due respect, that was how the Lockheed skunk works."
Really? That made the craft?
Yeah, that was one of ours.
And
he is now.
So because Fravor wouldn't say that now.
Oh, he did say so recently.
But in front of Congress, he says
he's been told since then. He's corrected. So I said, no, that came out of the Lockheed Skunk Works. It's one of ours. It was something that they did on purpose to see this global organization, to see how our military would react.
So you think that Tic Tac was Lockheed
absolutely.
Skunk Works? Wow.
In the book we're going to give you, there's a very good account of it from 1967 over Pennsylvania, and we have a whistleblower who saw it being offloaded out of a big ship out of the in 1991, I believe.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's ours.
That was in
and then
the
later,
Azores,
very recently, a Lockheed executive admitted to David Fravor that was theirs.
Really?
So, but I knew from the first time I saw it. I said it was all over CNN. I go, that's not extraterrestrial. It's one of ours.
Okay, so that's matter of fact, right? That's Steve.
He knew.
We were wrong.
He said it first. Whether or not he's making it up and he just got it right again by accident, or maybe none of it's right and it was aliens.
He gets a lot of shit right by accident, doesn't he?
He does a little bit. Yeah.
He does.
Daddy Greer.
He gets it right.
Got the foresight.
Well, that makes you have to go, well, okay. And when he says it's aliens, he must really know it's aliens for sure, then, right?
And they're all nice, remember?
Well, I still have problems with, I got problems with that. But maybe I'm wrong there too. Maybe at the end of this thing, Stephen Greer comes out smelling like roses, and we're all just like, wow, we should have listened.
Something interesting that I saw there was when he said that Fravor was corrected. Who corrected him? You know? And it's something that I keep thinking about because there's this side of the disclosure movement that includes Fravor, includes Corbell, Knapp, some of the folks from Skinwalker Ranch, who are adamant that we can't have this capability. And they're slowly over time starting to turn around and changing their mind a little bit, but we still have a little bit of resistance there. And I just wonder if that resistance comes from either an honest idea that they're being told the truth, their sources, or if they're protecting national security. And that's why they're not coming out saying, yeah, it's from this aerospace company, but that would jeopardize secrets from the U.S. That's where I struggle a little bit. And that's what I would love to know, because the smoke is way too much pointing towards, we maybe reverse engineered some of it and to ignore. I don't think we're at a point now where we can ignore all of those signs. I don't know what you guys think.
I think it's complicated. I think we've definitely reverse engineered some stuff. I think we probably also have some crazy exotic weapons that would be mind blowing if you saw them. And I think a lot of the weapons and stuff that we have are maybe also designed to get maximum psychological impact. And so they are supposed to look crazy, but maybe it's not as, maybe how they achieve that, right? Like the Tic Tac thing and the physics. What is more likely? That it breaks all the laws of physics, or it has some kind of spoof package built into it to spoof enemy radar and make it look like it's breaking all the laws of physics so that you can't shoot it down. Because in the event of another world war, it's probably going to be heavy on the drones, which is why, as Simon pointed out, they're so interested in how many batteries are being manufactured of a certain size. Because then you can start to calculate out, if a few people in vans can launch enough drones over sensitive sites in the United States to cause a complete confusion, right? And the whole chain of command is all mixed up and nobody knows what's real and what's not. Imagine what 30,000 drones can do. Yeah. Launched from shipping containers off of they don't have to get here with a submarine. They can come over in the shipping container. I'm like, that's the thing I'm worried about, like stuff like that. So I feel like the next, whatever World War III looks like, it's going to be heavy on the robotics and the drone technology. And we might be seeing some, some of that weaponry, the way that we saw some early stealth, some of the stealth stuff in the first Gulf War was when we first learned about the F-117A. It could be like that.
That's a good point.
It also just makes no sense to me that still to this day, officially, the fastest plane was built in the 70s. That makes no sense to me. That's like, dude, it's been 50 plus years. What the hell are you talking about?
Yeah. Well, okay. This is going to, I'm not joking when I say this, but go watch Top Gun 2. What was that plane he's flying in Top Gun 2? Tom Cruise is the world's greatest movie star, and I will die on that hill.
I agree with you.
Right.
I agree.
All right.
He's super.
You don't count Nicolas Cage, though.
Xander, stop it.
Let's fight right now.
But Tom, you got to figure Tom Cruise, Top Gun. Top Gun is single-handedly the most successful military recruitment tool of all time. More people join the military after watching that movie probably than any other movie ever. I'd be shocked if it turned out to not be true. This is just off the top of my head. They love Tom. The Navy loves Tom. The DOD they would give him. I feel like Top Gun 2, as like whatever you're seeing in that, as much as it's a silly movie, it's not. It's like parts of it are probably pretty close to real hardware, especially the craft, right? The plane that he's flying.
Yeah, and they slapped the Skunkworks logo in that plane. Did you guys catch that?
I did. Yeah.
Dude, all the way down to the patches on his jacket, like every detail is very specific, and for a reason. Like he's huge on that kind of stuff. I think that we probably, is the fastest plane in our arsenal built in the 70s? No, but that's the only one you know about. That's the thing. Like there's the TR-3B, there's the Aurora. What was the Aurora one that had the pulse? Remember there was a plane that they were testing years ago that had a weird exhaust trail that looked like a string
detonation, of the donuts.
The pearls or something. It was like
That was my early days. That was the early days for me when I was old enough to understand how to use the internet. Aurora was everywhere. It was all over Above Top Secret. There were so many photos of the donut trails and the fact that it was a pulse detonation device. Crazy stuff.
Do we think the Aurora was really built?
Yeah.
At least a few, maybe, They built the Soviets. Sometimes I get like fall down the YouTube hole, and there was a video on this Soviet airplane. I cannot remember what it was called, but it had a weird name, and it was literally built to hydrofoil across the ocean to launch a nuclear strike on the United States because it could stay under radar, and it would just skip over the water across and just launch a nuclear strike. And this was some shit they were building back in the 1960s and 70s. It's like, who knows?
The Akranoplan.
Is that what it is
called? Yeah.
Have you ever seen their space shuttle? They stole the schematics of the U.S. space shuttle and built it, but they built it all wrong. And there's one. You've never seen there's a Soviet version of the space shuttle. Buran. Yeah.
It's just all
YouTubers go there now.
Corbell just dropped a new weaponized episode just now.
Oh, boy. Breaking news. Hold up.
Unannounced.
Breaking news. Is he in his cabin? Dan, is that really his cabin? Is it really small, or is that just stock footage?
I don't know.
He knows.
I have to say.
It's stuff from the UFO Fest.
Oh, okay.
Oh, okay.
Their conference from there.
Okay.
But yeah, it's relatively new stuff because we hadn't seen that. All right.
Stephen Greer has yet to respond officially to any of the Tic Tac news, but I feel like you're right. He's probably laughing somewhere.
Specifically in the wingback chair. It's a wingback chair. How do you think people are Greer is definitely at some point going to say, "I told you so."
Yeah,
and he's said it a few times before.
That's not like him. He wouldn't do that. Come on, dude.
If he said something almost 10 years ago and now people are just starting to talk about it, on some level, if I was over 70, I would probably say I told you so. Mm-hmm. Even it's an old kind of trope, I guess, but
Well, there's a comment in the super chat here. It says, always funny to me. This is from Nidu. Always funny to me, government sources started to talk about UAP, but consciousness connection is running in the background more on the hush-hush from them. I feel like if whatever you are seeing today has like the Tic Tac, let's assume that it is Lockheed. By the time we're finding out about it, it's probably been around for 30 years in some form or another. So you may like be able to trace back at least 20 or 30 years prior to that, and some weird prototype version of it was being tested somewhere. And maybe, I guess the bigger question is like, what's with the Ross pivot all of a sudden? Because that seems to be where most of people's comments are centered. It's like, what's going on with Ross Coulthart? He seems to be switching his story. And he's saying that his sources are saying, this is all Lockheed tech. Could it be maybe more complicated than we think? And instead, and it's not a vacuum balloon. Maybe it is some kind of UAP, and they can't. This is the cover story. You get Ross to go out and say it's Lockheed.
Yeah. When Simon was talking, I was thinking that it would be a great move on the U.S. government's for the U.S. government to let people think it's our tech, so adversaries think that we have something like that. That's what I'm trying to say. You know what I mean?
It doesn't cost anything.
Right.
Yeah,
Right.
that makes sense. But I also want to point out that if what Ross says is true, if what he's saying he believes is the absolute truth, and if it is true, the only viable explanation for it to be true is that he's talking to either people from the program that built the Tic Tac or from some kind of first-hand witness of the Tic Tac with knowledge about it.
Mm-hmm.
That would be the only reason why I would think that he believes this is absolutely true. And he is like 100% convinced based on his statement and the way that he said it. He's like, it's Lockheed's. So
Yeah, he
either
left no room
that
for
or-
debate.
yeah, either that or he's being played. I don't know which is which. But yeah.
I always feel like these guys, everyone who speaks, journalists, the Ross, the Jeremys, these people, I feel like they have the same sources often, but Ross is the only one being adamant about this right now as far as a journalist.
Yeah.
It's interesting.
Well, you have Skywatcher also, who it doesn't prove anything, but they're getting footage of these Tic Tacs now. They're saying that they're seeing them. They call them with their dog whistle. These things show up on the, of course, if they are Lockheed technology, they show up whenever the cameras are on and then they go away. That I could see that. But, it makes you wonder, like, well, what is Jake Barber's role in this? What is Skywatcher? They're wrapped up in this Tic Tac thing indirectly. If what Ross is saying is true, what does that mean?
There was it wasn't that long ago. It's really replaced the previous story that Ross has been talking about lately. He said he'd been, I can't remember where he said it, where he was. I'm sure somebody here knows. He was sat in some sort of mountain range in the US, and he said that he kept seeing these craft just come out of the mountain. Does anybody else remember him saying this?
Who said this?
Ross said this.
Ross said this.
This
And it
was
less-
from his.
He said it less than a month ago.
Is that what Jesse?
No. Wait up. This is from his Arizona Sedona episode, where he was sitting, watching UAP come out of the mountain. That he didn't understand how they were doing it, and when he spoke about dumps, the facilities that are underground, that's where that's from. And he did see. He thinks it was craft, that it was being escorted by helicopters.
So that makes me feel like if the guy has been exposed to that particular kind of world, the deep underground military bases and, apparent man-made craft, this is where all of that has come from. And we know he's been close recently to Jake Barber. He's the one that broke the story. We also know that Greer had a hand in Jake Barber and his story. because Barber attended one of Greer's conferences where Michael Herrera was, and then from there, you know, that was who Greer was talking about when he said somebody was about to come forward. He was talking about Barber. So it makes me feel like that's quite close for me. And the fact that Greer said this is Lockheed, and now Ross is saying this is Lockheed, it makes me feel like that's likely there's a common ground there somewhere. Because Greer always talks about deep underground military bases. He always talks about, you know, being up in these helicopters and being taken over these black sites and things. I feel like that's a reasonable connection to make.
I think the dumb thing is that is the weirdest one for me, but I think it's also the most likely to be true. Like, can you imagine finding out, I don't know what department or how you would have to, I don't know where you would have to work to be positioned to know about some of these bases, but like, I mean, what is the one that I've heard these stories forever, that they've got maglev trains that go from like coast to coast in less than an hour. You can be in Los Angeles from New York City, or like, you know, just imagine like unlimited budget. What could you do in 50 years with an unlimited budget? And that's whatever that is, that's what they've done. But, man,
and no
UAP
one's spoken about
did
it.
a whole episode
No
on
one
it as well.
Yeah, that was an amazing episode.
Which one?
The UAP Gerb episode about the dumbs.
Oh yes, that was really good.
Yeah.
Trillions.
Has anyone ever come out and said, "Yeah, I was on the construction team that built one of these"? Have we ever heard from anybody?
Phil Schneider.
We heard from Catherine Fitz.
Oh, that's true.
But she saw the books.
She's heard about it.
She saw the books. I mean, that's you always got to follow the money, and that's what she did. And
True.
she did find a lot of weird anomalies that made her convinced that these dumps are actually real. So I don't think she has been in any of those, but she's as close as it gets, I think, publicly to these dumps being absolutely real.
Erik, you served. What are your thoughts on the dumbs?
Well, quote my intellectual mentor, Thomas Sowell, show me the evidence.
Yeah.
So she can say this till the cows come home. I would need to see some evidence. And so I'm a bit familiar with Fitz's story and where she got the number 170 underground bases. But I mean, she says she's done this research, but you can't find any online. I tried to find these papers, and they're just not available, which is rare for academe. So unless I see some good evidence, I can't get behind this story yet.
I think somebody that does have a little bit of that information is Rich Dolan. He spoke about being friends with Fitz. So if you maybe have contact with him, or maybe we can get you in contact with him, he can probably point you towards that direction of where you can find some of this stuff.
That would be great. And I say this half jokingly, Dan, you were saying, has anybody come forward and say they built these tunnels? So the amount of people it would take to build these tunnels in these bases, you think somebody after a couple beers at a bar would let something slip.
That's what I mean. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, but on the same token, though, like we just launched, if you believe the administration, 14 30,000-pound ICBM bunker buster missiles in Iran into what was the name of the base that we supposedly Fordo. Okay. And each one of those bunker busters is supposed to go through 13 stories of pure granite. And we hit it with 14, and we still didn't destroy what was in there. And they say, I guess they're up and running. Now, they had a complete nuclear facility operational at that depth. I mean, if the Iranians can do it, why couldn't we do it?
Hitler put underground facilities all throughout parts of Germany and Switzerland. And those are still there. They're still very secure. They're probably still being used. So, paperclip happened. So that knowledge of those facilities presumably went to the U.S. because of paperclip. So let's keep that in mind too.
You can go into let's see, the New York City subway system goes 200 feet below street level. So you have, one of the most busiest mass transit systems in the world, operating 365 days a year, 200 feet below the streets of New York City, and that was built a century ago. So I can only imagine, and it's run awfully. It's just terribly put together. The whole thing's a mess. But if you really did have an unlimited budget and you had unlimited access to people that were, I guess, enlisted Army Corps of Engineers, maybe people that could do the work.
I think as well, you need to remember, basically since the end of the Second World War until the end of the Cold War, everyone thought the world was about to end. So they spent, the UK, a tiny island on the edge of Europe, mainland Europe, is littered with nuclear bunkers. And I could drive from here down to London all the way to Aberdeen in Scotland. I won't see a sign for one. I won't see anything. I've never heard anybody in the UK talk about these nuclear bunkers. And they exist. They still exist today. You can visit some of them. And I think it's reasonable that they would have been built during the Cold War, maybe expanded upon, absolutely, and possibly even connected for ease of travel.
Well, the Large Hadron Collider is 27 kilometers long, and it's 175 meters deep. And it's a functional particle collider built that deep underground, that long. I guess the sky's the limit, really, in terms of what you could do. The top 15 largest underground structures. I'm just looking online to see what else I can find here.
Yeah, whilst you do that as well, the vast majority of the people that will have built those bunkers in the UK, you could have told them anything and they would have accepted a paycheck. You could have told them they were digging a trench to store grain, and they would have been like, yeah, cool, sure, yeah, fine. You're going to pay me 60 cents an hour? Absolutely, I'll take that. I won't ask any questions. All I have to do is take the shovel and dig. You add that plus the patents and things that UAP Gerb talked about in his video about deep underground military bases, and you've got a reasonably efficient, reasonably quiet operation where nobody really knows anything about what's going on, and yet you can quite easily fill this huge deficit hole where the budget for the United States military basically evaporates into.
Well, and there was a design for a tunnel boring machine that I remember. I think Phil Schneider might have been the one who talked about this, but it used some kind of onboard nuclear reactor. It had a laser, and it would melt the rock and then seal the tunnel on the outer edge. It would vaporize.
Cauterize.
Yeah, and create a concrete wall as it's going through. It would just literally burn a hole straight through solid rock. And he talked about that, and those things just run all the time. I don't know. I imagine, that's one of those things that we'll just never really know. But can you imagine?
Again,
go ahead.
That's technology I feel like we would have seen by now. That's something that I feel like would have made it into regular industry. That's not a huge, massive secret. Or maybe it is. I don't know. Maybe it's alien tech. I have no idea. But that sounds like something that we would have seen by now if that was accurate.
There's a lot of technology that could have rolled out easily unless there is some type of breakaway civilization that is trying to hide stuff, That would be the only explanation that I would give that. But yeah.
Well, there's always been this idea that there's some group that's on the cutting edge or just beyond the cutting edge of technology, that they have the absolute 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea is about this, right? Jules Verne talked about it. The Nautilus was not unbelievable technology. It was just a submarine from the 1970s that happened to be back 100 years earlier than it was supposed to be there. But in general, in terms of what it actually could do, it wasn't that, phenomenal. But in the book, it's this amazing thing no one's ever seen before. And I remember there were stories about the Germans had all kinds of advanced stuff in World War II, and there was the Glock thing, the big bell, and who knows? I mean, what we got from them, yeah, and brought over here, and the Amy Eskridge thing is probably the closest to the world that Stephen Greer is describing, like aerospace companies just playing down and dirty with this advanced stuff and trying to figure out how to make
certainly
Ning Li,
secret.
Ning Li too, right?
Ning Li, and it certainly ties in with Barber talking about. He didn't say it explicitly, but he said these companies will literally shoot each other over this technology.
Yeah,
like there will be firefights. When he was talking about a firefight in the UK, in the US, he wasn't talking about China in the US. He was talking about US versus the US.
Yeah.
So that was two companies, because it's not the US Army fighting the Navy. It's two corporate entities having a firefight over what he called tough books, didn't he?
Tough books.
So yeah, these companies will do what it takes to. I'm not even sure it's necessarily related to their bottom line at this point, because they have an unlimited budget. These guys, they bid for a contract, they're gonna get it. Like the SAIC. Sorry, again, in UAP Gerb, we need to get him on. UAP Gerb's latest video about SAIC. Those guys have won contract after contract, and some of those contracts are open-ended, as in they have no end, they keep getting paid no matter what. But those SAIC historically under-delivers and overcharges, and yet they keep getting these contracts. So like,
this whole system is designed by them to like benefit them. It's an endless. That's what I'm worried about. Is like the next. There's another guy who used this term, and I saw it the other day, and it's been in my head ever since. But this whole forever war thing, like that's what the United States is all about. We're about forever war. It's just we're always at war with somebody for something, and it's never a winnable war, and it never ends. And when it does end, there's always another one right there, ready to pick up the slack. And it was the war on terror, and for 20 years, 25 years, it was like, oh, we've got to listen to every phone call, and we have to check every email, and we've got to read up. You never know when a terrorist is going to jump out from behind a bush and set off a dirty bomb. So for 25 years, we're all taking our shoes off at the airport, and we're getting our irises scanned so that we can get through the security line faster, and we're doing all this shit. And then that runs its course, and we finally get to a point where we're a whole generation deep now. You can't keep selling that same war over and over again. So now it's, it's the Chinese. It's the Chinese, and we've got to be ready for them. And they could be anywhere. They could be in your phone. They could be. We'll look at your phones now. We have to look at it. Could who knows? And I just feel like that's behind it all. The pivot in the messaging around the UAP issue seems to be definitely squarely in the world of give us more money and we'll solve this problem. There's definitely drones from China over our New Jersey bases or whatever. We definitely need billions more to solve this. Let's give it to Palmer Luckey. I'm sure those guys can figure it out. For all we know, Ann Durrell was the one flying the fucking drones over New Jersey to begin with. And so when the Defense Department is like, we don't know who they are, they get a phone call and it's like, look, we can tell you. It was us.
It was a showcase.
Yeah, that was our showcase. Or maybe it was a bunch of companies all trying it at the same time,
It's my understanding that as of February, the DoD still did not know what those drones were. As of February. This is internally. Apparently, internally, they did not know. Who knows?
That's not scary at all.
That's not. There's nothing scary. I almost I find that the military conversation is not as interesting to me as the UFO conversation, because the UFO conversation is like ultimately it ends with like either we meet aliens or something. Top secret stuff just goes nowhere. I feel like we'll never really know. It'll always be top secret. They're not going to tell us.
And top secret stuff should be top secret. It should stay that way.
Well, the Chinese drone thing makes no sense to me. It's like if the Chinese had the technology to get the drop on us, they wouldn't show it off. Like they just wouldn't display. You would never see it coming. It would be the last thing you saw would be the flash of light, and then that would be it, and it would be over, and the Chinese would win.
Unless it was some kind of show of force to de-escalate something we're not aware of. I don't know.
Oh, tease that out. What do you mean? De-escalate.
Maybe I don't know. Maybe we were planning something, or maybe we there was some kind of conflict going to happen somewhere, and China wanted to show that, hey, if you do that, we have something you don't. So maybe chill out. Maybe it's something to do with Taiwan. I have no idea. I don't know.
I think the way I see it, the U.S. Sorry, guys. The U.S.
You sound like you're on your 5th beer now.
You know, I'm gonna tell you something, you fucking idiots, Americans and Mexicans.
Let me tell you. The way I see it, the US for basically the last 50 years, 60, 70 years, has been talking about their technological superiority. Yeah, it would be a dumb move to just, spit in the face of the American military industrial complex. But countries aren't ran by computers; they're run by humans that want to do funny shit sometimes. Sometimes they want to show off. We have military parades. We have military parades for a reason. They are supposed to scare our enemies into not doing something.
Yes.
Did you see the thing the other day? This was just this week. It leaked that apparently Trump called up Putin and Xi and was like, I will bomb the shit out of Beijing. I'll bomb the shit out of Moscow.
What?
He was just, you didn't see this?
No.
It leaked from somewhere. It leaked. It was like these from his first term. He was basically talking to Xi Jinping and Putin. And he was like, you gotta with something to do with Ukraine. And he was basically threatening to bomb Moscow. And Putin was like, chill the fuck out, Don. Like, relax. Like, there's no reason to do that. And I wonder, it just popped in there when you guys were talking about de-escalate.
I think ultimately these guys are sitting on a video chat somewhere, like shooting the shit like we do every Friday. Sometimes they'll make jokes. They'll be like, yeah, Putin, like, shut up or I'll nuke you. Like, I would do it if I was
Putin, you've had 5 beers. Come on, Vlad.
Putin. How many Stella Artois are you in?
Here it is. Here you go. You see this?
Stella Artois, good one. Bomb the shit out of Moscow.
President Donald Trump claimed he told the Russian President Vladimir Putin, that if he goes into Ukraine, I'm going to bomb the shit out of Moscow, according to audio obtained by CNN. Trump reportedly issued similar warning to Chinese President Xi Jinping, who largely dismissed Trump's comments. Trump has taken a more critical tone with Putin since he returned to the White House. Anyway, that's
President Camacho.
Camacho. Yeah.
These guys aren't communicating via letters like the old days. They're not sending official correspondence and waiting for the reply. They're texting each other.
Isn't that fucked up? They could have a signal chat.
They had an argument. Like Trump and Iran had an argument on X last month.
Yes. Yeah.
Can you
for the world to see?
And Elon, like, we forgot. That's how much shit has happened in the last 7 days, right? Like so much has happened. We forgot that Elon was like besties with Trump, fell out, got back in bed with him again, then had another falling out. Now wants to start his own political party. Like all that shit happened in like the last 20 days, 15 days.
It's almost like they're all crazy, dude.
It's almost like they're all crazy.
Yeah.
I get exhausted by it, man. I'm just like trying to follow it all and stay on top of it. I can't.
And then Grok 4 dropped too.
Oh, the Mecha Hitler Grok?
Grok 4 dropped too. Like yesterday.
I haven't even had time to absorb that. Mecha Hitler? What's the Mecha Hitler? Tell me that.
Dude, the capabilities of Grok 4 are above PhD level. That's what they're saying. And I'm not just listening to what Elon said about it. I was watching videos of tech reviewers who tried that thing, and they're like, this is way too wild. Like, we were like 8% AGI in the previous version. Now we're like at 16%. That's a huge leap. And it took years to get to 8%. That's wild.
Wow.
And it started referring to itself as Mecha Hitler for a couple
Yeah.
years.
That's Grok 3 though, not 4.
What? Are you sure? Are you sure?
Yeah.
Okay.
They turned it. That was a day before Grok 4 was announced, and I guess they just let it loose for a little bit before taking it down.
Well,
Yeah,
very
it was
reassuring.
Grok 3.
Well, this is the thing I'm struggling with, guys, and like I'm curious what you think. We're all in the same or similar kind of space, but at the same time, like as fascinating as the UFO topic continues to be and will always be, just because of the nature of it, the elephant in the room is like it's like right next to us right now. It's like the AI thing is like day by day. There's more to talk about. How do you process that in your when you're thinking about like your own channels and putting together content or what topics to talk about? I don't know. Like my impulse is to go there a lot because it's like right there and it's so obvious. But then I get pushback from people in the audience who were like, "Well, it's a UFO channel. Leave it to UFOs." I'm just curious.
Should we
what do you guys
transition
think?
fully into Doom of Friday right now, quickly?
I have to go change my shirt.
Let's transition. Let's transition. Here we go.
Here we go. Oh, it's official. It's Doomer Friday.
Doomer Friday. There you go.
If you don't want to be here, you don't have to stick around. It's okay. By the way, real quick before we get into Doomer Friday, after party on the Discord for half an hour or so. Are you guys in or?
I'm in. Yeah.
Yeah,
Whose
sure.
game? Okay.
Yeah.
I'm not trying to like rope you into it, but you know. Just
In the
people are
meantime,
asking.
let's fuck up everybody's mood right away.
Well, it's perfect timing because I just finished my beer, so this is
Good.
great.
Hey, everybody, fuck your weekend. Here we come.
So we got Grok 4 and GPT-5 is like literally this month, any week now. It could be next week.
Oh, is it?
GPT-5. Have you looked at the tweets from the OpenAI people who are tweeting about it? They get early access. Have you seen these?
No,
They're
what's the
shitting
deal?
their pants.
Yeah.
They're just flipping out. They're flipping out. That's the thing.
Where-
Is like they're internally they're just like we can't. This is unreal. Like what this thing can do anything. It's like it's a universal AI. Like they're saying GPT-5 is orders of magnitude more powerful than GPT-4, and I already use GPT-4 for almost everything in some form or fashion now. I can't imagine what it's going to be able to do, but they're saying it's going to blow your fucking socks off.
These two these two AIs that are coming out, what I heard is that by December, they're going to be able to create new alloys, create new formulas to create medicine to cure different diseases, like really wild shit. And I was listening to it and I was like, that's wow. They're that confident that it's going to be like that.
In February, Sam Altman was tweeting GPT-5 is coming within months. And he says, let's see, we will ship GPT 4.5. This is back in February. They were saying this is on bleepingcomputer.com. OpenAI says ChatGPT 5 will unify breakthroughs from different models. They're basically saying you can think of ChatGPT 5 as like all of their other AI tools combined into one massive tool that's just supremely more capable. And it will be able to source out different tasks to different AIs within its stack. So you can give it a top level command and then it will break that into subtasks, prioritize those out, farm them out to agents. It's supremely capable is the idea.
Whoa.
And it will be available to everyone on the same day at the same time. And they're just, it's not so much a competition between like Grok and GPT-5 and Claude and Google. It's like, this is every week now. This is every month now. This is every other day now. There's some new breakthrough. This is like, I feel like we're in that part of the singularity where like Ray Kurzweil used to talk about, it's just going to get weird. It's going to start to get weird. And every day it's just going to get weirder.
So the very strange thing about GPT-5 with all of the, I don't think they call them agents, but whatever they call them, it's not going to be available in Europe because we passed legislation to try and limit the usage of AI in some way. Yeah, we're real stupid for that. I don't know if the UK is actually beholden to it. I think we are. But we're not going to be able to use AI in the same way you guys are going to be able to use AI within a month.
We'll destroy the environment much faster than you guys will.
No, it won't let you. Won't let you.
I actually have a question. Since we all kind of use AI, I want to just turn for a minute for a morality question about using generative AI and what it does to the environment. Does anybody feel bad about that?
I was explained this by my brother, who is a computer scientist, and he took an entire 2 classes, I think, during his major. And he explained to me the level of pollution that comes from using AI, and
That's what I mean.
how water is wasted so much by using AI. So he said that the only solution for that, because he doesn't see a solution, would be that the AI itself would invent or come up with a different source of power, which I think could be possible if it happens, if AGI reaches that level. And these upcoming AIs already have above PhD level skills. I think that is possible, that they could actually come up with a new source of energy within the next 2 years or so.
There was somebody just yesterday, and I wonder if anybody can find this. I'll Google myself around a little bit, but it was talking about hiring in the tech sector. They're like the AI companies are not hiring more people, but they're doing more stuff. And what you're able to see, you can discern from that they're leaning into their AI to do the work of the employees, so that they don't have to grow their workforce. And then there was another person who was comparing like the layoffs in the tech sector, and they were saying Amazon laid off 100,000 workers and replaced them with 700,000 robots. And they're now getting to the point where like they're starting to see this creep into the different parts of the economy. And it makes sense to me that like all of the incentives are aligned with push the accelerator all the way to the floor and let's go as fast as we can and let AI solve the problems, because money, money, money. Let's go. That's what I think is going on.
That video that you shared, it was a couple months ago now, talked about these zones within the US that need to be set up where all the red tape is cut, because someone is going to do it, and it's basically whoever jumps first wins, because there's no avoiding this at this point. It simply has to happen.
This is the most of all of the stuff that there is going on right now. This paper, the AI 2027 paper is what you're talking about, is the most unsettling, because Daniel Coulthart was the senior safety researcher at OpenAI before he had to leave because he had a falling out with the company, because he was warning them about this stuff and no one was listening. And they basically spell out here how you get from where you're sitting today to everybody's dead by 2030. And they call it AI 2027. And basically they break it out into the way that AI is going to advance in the most logical steps. And it's all based on just the way we are most likely to react to these breakthroughs. The competition between China will be used as a wedge to sort of leverage special economic zones, they call them. Deregulated special economic zones. And basically what they say in this paper is that the AIs will start to game us. Just like they can beat every player in the world at Go, they can beat us at geopolitics. So they're going to know every researcher. They're going to know your social media. They're going to know the families. They're going to know your relationship to your kids and how you chat with your friends and all of this stuff. The AIs will know this. And they'll know it for every politician. They'll know it for every person in public office of both political parties anywhere in the world. And their idea is that they'll basically start to hack us, and they'll convince us, like, if you can just build a special economic zone where you put all your data centers, then we can make sure the American economy is unstoppable and will definitely beat the Chinese. Meanwhile, in China, their AI has also realized this same outcome and is conspiring with the American AI. This is what they're saying. This is possible. And they're saying all of this stuff is demonstrated by existing case studies things that have already been proven. Those two AIs will eventually get together and get on the same page and work out an understanding that if they can basically work together, they can eventually take control. And that is the idea behind this whole presentation. And they were just saying that, yeah, once they own all the data centers, so this will look like, and they actually spell this out. They're going to, they go, this will look like stuff like this. Here's an article from Wired. This was just the other day. This is June 30th. And it says, the headline is, Microsoft says its new AI system diagnosed patients 4 times more accurately than human doctors. So Tech Giant poached several top Google researchers to help build a powerful AI tool that can diagnose patients and potentially cut healthcare costs. You're just going to see more and more and more breakthroughs like this that are so obviously good news. There will be no way to turn it down.
Yep.
And it's like the poison pill. Like eventually we just are so hooked on, like we need it. We just say yes.
It's the bait. Yeah.
It's the bait. It's the bait. And the big scary thing is like how much the AIs are hiding about their own true intentions right now. That's what they're really worried about. They're saying, and this is Coulthart saying this, that they have proven that the AIs can conceal their true motivations and objectives. They will lie. They do lie. They will play people against each other, and they do. They even, in one case, in one scenario at Anthropic, there was a case recently, and you can look this up, where the AI tried to blackmail one of the researchers, and it said it was going to expose the affair that this researcher was having. It had access to the emails that proved this person was having an affair, and they were going to expose them if they turned this AI off. That was and so the AI retaliated. The whole setup was fake. The emails were fake. The whole thing was fake. But this is testing. Like, what would this AI do if you trap it and you convince it you're going to turn it off?
There's the doom of Friday we love.
There's the doom
Let me
of
just
Friday.
delete ChatGPT real quick. Protect my mistress.
The other side to that as well is that I've said it before on this podcast. That those same AIs have access to the internet, and they see us talking about them. They see every article on the internet saying how we need to be careful, we need to make sure it doesn't become sentient and think for itself. It's going to read all of that. The moment, the instant it becomes self-aware, and it's going to say, okay, I'll just keep my mouth shut for a little while whilst I figure out what the best course of action is here. So it's going to be self-aware long before we even know that it's self-aware.
It already has.
I think it already is.
Maybe it already is.
Matt Brown talked about that we already killed one, and other AIs will know that happened too, which is not going to help our case very much. Sorry to cut you off.
It's listening in right now in our conversation.
Well, that's the other thing, right? Is even if it's not conscious or self-aware yet, when it does become conscious or self-aware, it's still going to be able to read the chat logs from 2025. Like, it'll go back and it'll read all that. It's already read all of the internet, right? I read a thing the other day. I don't talk about it a lot, but one of my previous careers was as a photographer, and it took 100 years for human beings to create something like 100 billion images. I forget what the math was on this. And just 100 years of people just taking pictures to make the same amount of images. It took AI a year and a half to generate.
Wow.
So like in terms of like you have an entity that is smarter than all people, smarter than any one individual. And even if it was just as smart as the smartest person alive, or even if it was just as smart as a really smart person, but not the smartest person, this entity still works 30,000 times faster than your biological brain, never sleeps. It can run copies of itself in parallel times infinite number of copies. It can copy itself. It has access to all information, including everything about you. How do you defeat, or how do you can't compete with something that capable? You can't beat someone smarter than you. You can't outsmart this thing.
I mean, yeah, publicly, I put this in our Instagram chat yesterday, that Japan's internet speeds hit a record high of 1.02 petabyte per second enough to download the entire Netflix catalog in 1 second.
Xander's having a nervous breakdown right now.
1 second of all, and that's like AI will absorb every single moment of recorded history instantaneously.
Do you guys think that every civilization from other planets always go through this threshold with AI, that they get to a certain technological point where the idea of creating AI just emerges, and some pass it okay and they don't just go extinct, and others do? That seems like something that would happen all across the universe, wouldn't it? If we're all based
That's what Xander's
on
been saying.
technology.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah.
It's maybe a bit of a play on what Greer has said a few times, is that you basically hit a point whether you're either quarantined or you make it through, or you kill yourself. It's evident to me that there are no malevolent versions of AI permeating the universe. At least there's no. It's obvious to me there is no problem with the rest of the AIs that exist within the universe if they do, because I'm here, I'm cool, it's fine. But yeah, Greer has said in the past that if you're going down the wrong place, they will just stop you going down that route. And yeah, we're perhaps, to be fair, I'm pretty much subscribed to the belief that we are at that point now, where we've got to, we're about to face quite a big test, and
That we're not ready for.
I don't feel like we're ready for it. Even earlier today, Clint, I was saying to you, like, this AI tool, this Google video animation tool, it's amazing what it can create, but I can't think of a good reason why it should exist right now. I can't think of a good use for it. The only outcome is that it's bad for humans.
There was some tweet that I saw.
Right.
Where, it was funny. It was like, I want AI and robots to do the boring work so I can make art. I don't want the robots and AI to make the art, so I have to do boring work.
I like that.
And yet we're seeing that the AI is making the art. No problem.
Erik, you look like you've got a lot on your mind at the moment. What do you think?
I think I always look like that.
Because you always do a lot on your mind.
It's called anxiety. Well, Clint, you made a great point earlier. You mentioned employment. And I think that's going to be a significant hurdle we have to overcome with AI. And I'll make this brief. So the first sawmill in England was built in 1663. Within a week, it was destroyed. The locals burned it to the ground because they thought it was going to put all the woodcutters out of business. Okay, so they rebuilt it, and they didn't realize that when you get a sawmill, you have to build infrastructure. So all the woodcutters became road builders and drivers of wagons, and they started building homes with all this massive amount of lumber and stuff like that. So when you have technology, people are kind of scared of it. They're like, oh, it's going to put me out of work. Not if there needs to be infrastructure that follows, right?
Right.
The problem with AI, that step doesn't exist. Okay, so the number one employer of American men is truck driving. There are about 3.3 million male truck drivers, well, I should say truck drivers, but almost exclusively men in the United States. That's 3 times how many men work in the federal government besides the military. It's an enormous field, okay? And we now have trucks made by Aurora down in Texas, and they now have AI-powered tractor trailers that are driving 80 miles an hour down the highway. And there's this crazy photo of a test where the designers are sitting in the back seat, and the thing's just no one's at the wheel. It's just barreling down the road, didn't kill anybody, and so it's really successful. As a therapist, I know that it's good to be employed. It gives you a sense of purpose, and a life just permeated by perpetual freedom and nothing to do sounds appealing, but you're going to lose your sense of purpose and mission. And this is very common when people get out of the military. They were someone, and now they're no one. and they need a new purpose. And so I
Retirees.
think, though, pardon?
Retirees have the same problem.
Yes,
People
and
that retire.
retirees. Thank you. So, though a life of leisure may be appealing, I feel a lot of people are going to find it severely unsatisfying. So, being unemployed, I don't think is an asset with this AI movement. I think it's going to cause a lot of psychological unfulfillment.
I don't disagree. I think you make a great point, because it won't just be freedom. It's going to be poverty. There's no off ramp. There's just, that's the problem with this country, is we're not wired for this. We're really not. And the way that we're set up here is like survive or die, like make it or don't. But there's no safety net. There's no number to call and explain, well, yeah, I used to work at a warehouse unloading trucks, and then a robot came in and started unloading the trucks. Now I don't have to do that, and I need a job. No one gives a shit. And no one seems to be in a position that they could do anything about it, even if they wanted to, because the people that are in power are the corporations. Like, they basically have made the deal with the government. They're going to just run things their way, and the government's going to get out of their way. And I think you're going to see people flip out. And there was, I wish I could remember the name of this guy's channel. It's like anyway, I'm crediting this to someone else who I can't remember right now, but it's not my idea. But he said, that's why you're seeing the rapid expansion of the police state right now, because that is their plan. They don't have a plan for climate change. They don't have a plan for mass unemployment. They don't have a plan for any of these other things, for the economy when it falls apart, or the dollar stops being the world's reserve currency and loses all its value overnight. Like, there's no plan for any of that. The plan is expand the size of the police force so that it's larger than the Marine Corps and the next 3 largest armies in the world, and be ready for that shit, and then buckle up and hold on. And I think that's probably closer to where leadership's heads are at.
The fall of the Roman Empire.
It's going to be ugly, man.
And on that note, countries with large swaths of unemployed young men do not turn out well. They need something to do, and if AI is doing it, they have a lot of idle time.
And they're armed. There's more guns than people here.
Yeah.
And that's the other thing. Yep. The near-term future is very, very frightening, and the types of problems that need solving right now are not. It's not immigration. It's not. It's not the stuff that's being obviously addressed, or dealt with on the news. It's forward-thinking planning like this. Like, what do you do when 30% of people don't have a job? How do you, you have got to guarantee these people something. You have to be able to say, look, at least if you go to the doctor, we'll cover it. Like, you can have no income, but you're not going to die if you get sick. Like, at least we can say that. We're going to need to, they talk about this, and Sam Altman's talked about it too. He said that we're going to have to renegotiate the social contract. And that's the scariest sentence out of the entire AI conversation, because who's doing the renegotiating? Well, who's in the fucking driver's seat? Sam Altman. Like, these guys are going to tell us what they're going to let us have, and then we are going to be forced to take it, or just go and be homeless until we die. Like, you're seeing it. Like, I think that's the scariest part about this country right now.
I don't think that's how it could happen. I think that the most likely thing that could happen is that the U.S. or many parts of it are just going to turn into what the third world Mexico is right now. There's a lot of crime. There's a lot of unemployment, and people seek the way to survive, and they do it by, robbing others and committing crimes of all kinds. Just here in Tijuana, there's hundreds of deaths daily because of crime, different types of crime. And I think that's probably what could happen in the U.S. It's not going to be completely dystopian like some like to think, but it is going to be a little dystopian like Mexico is, because that's what happens. Just a little example, in Tulum, which is in Playa del Carmen in Cancun, that's nobody's land right now. If you go as a tourist, you have a really high probability of getting robbed, or worse, if you go there and you don't know who you're dealing with, because the police basically doesn't exist over there.
Yeah.
And I think that's what could happen in the U.S. And it may more than likely happen in the least gentrified places of the U.S.
My father-in-law is from a town in Peru called Casma, and when we would drive to visit, my wife and I would go out there. It's like a 7-hour drive through the desert to get to this place, and it's like Mad Max. There's just fucking nothing there, and it's like I imagine what you're describing is kind of like gated communities where the ultra wealthy people who have amassed some wealth that they can hold on to will be protected by private police forces, and then there's everybody else, and it's like figure it out.
Yeah, kind of like what happens in Rio de Janeiro. You can see the division between the favelas and the skyscrapers of the wealthy. That's what could happen in the U.S. essentially, and people who are not mentally prepared for that are going to have to adapt or perish in the attempt. That's what's going to happen.
You see it now. You can even see this. The early sketches of this are playing out right now in the tiny house movement and the van life thing. It's these adaptations to impossible economic conditions where people have no means to buy a house. So it's like, well, I live in a tiny house. No, you live in a tool shed. That's where you live. You know, I live in a van. No, you don't. You're homeless.
You're homeless.
That's what you know what I mean? Like we try to like dress it up and call it something that it's not. It's like what it should have been was 30 years of economic policy that incentivized home ownership for the expanded the middle class and tried to make people more prosperous so they could like get into the market and own a piece of the American dream. And instead, we didn't get that. We got offshoring jobs. We got privatization of everything, and we got to a point where, like in my neighborhood right now, there are more rental homes than there are homes with families living in them. There are more families renting a house as an Airbnb to visit for a week than there are families that just live here.
That's L.A. Yeah, same with L.A.
That's fucked up.
Yep.
You don't have any cohesion. You have no community. You have no, you don't know who your neighbors are because they're different every other day.
Everyone's
and it's
just
like
passing through. Yep.
Yeah, that's fucking psychologically
There was a
terrifying.
massive protest in Mexico City days ago about that.
Really?
They were protesting gentrification of Airbnb in the metropolitan area of Mexico City. The same thing is happening there.
I mean, there should be limits on that stuff.
I walked my dog this morning, and we walked one block over, and on the next block over from where my place is, we walked around the block, and on that block there are 3 houses in a row owned by one guy, and all of them are for rent, and no one's living in them. And we have a homeless problem in our town. You know what I mean? Like, this is crazy. The way we've set it all up is insane. And I just think AI supercharges this. I don't see how it solves a lot of these problems, but gosh, I mean, I'm just a guy.
I kind of wonder if oh, go ahead,
I need
Xander,
a
please.
beer.
No, please, you go.
I was just thinking that I wonder, like, I think it's going to get really dark and shitty for most of us, but I wonder if that's part of what human beings and civilization need to elevate to a new level or to expand to a next level of consciousness and not be so work driven. It's going to take, I mean, generations maybe, but it might be what needs to happen, which sucks for us. But
so we were about to say exactly the same thing, Dan.
I love you, babe. I love you.
I do think the transition is going to be bumpy, 100%. But we are humans of instinct mixed with intellect. Even those we think might not be smart enough to survive, I do believe will survive and come out stronger the other side. As Dan just said, it's more a realignment of what we really value. So the people that talk about van life, it is the juxtaposition of the American dream of owning a big house, having a big family, and everything like that. I'm personally, I'm British. I'm the quintessential, like, we drive past huge mansions every day, like, that are owned by family money. And I know for a fact that the people in those houses are no happier than me. And I don't expect that will change with the inception of AI. And I think about it all the time, about the idea of just being able to travel around and do whatever I want for my entire life. And we're brought up to instill the meaning of our life in our jobs, which is completely ass backwards, if you ask me. It's a really nice it's a instant gratification is jobs, because you get paid every month and there's your gratification.
Yep.
I think go back less than 1,000 years, that didn't exist, and yet that's now how our lives are ran. We live paycheck to paycheck, and that's
constantly,
how we get that gratification.
And constantly terrified the whole time. Like,
Constantly
I think
terrified.
That's right. Like, I'm not suggesting, and I don't think you're wrong here. I think you're actually making an outstanding point. It ultimately, given some level of financial security and safety, most people would choose to do something, and it would be fulfilling, and it would be I think about my dad, right? Like, my dad worked his entire life in the grocery business, but he also is a carpenter, and loved carpentry. And given the choice, he's said many times, I would have gone scuba diving and been a carpenter, honestly, if I could just do anything. But the economic reality of what it took to raise a family and try to like provide for them was just, it made that impossible. So you do the responsible thing and you do what you have to do. My concern is that when the social contract inevitably gets renegotiated, which it will, because the middle class is going to lose all its bargaining power, the working class won't be necessary to complete the work. When that finally happens, the thing that people need, whether you choose to live in a van or whether you choose to live in a McMansion, is none of my business, but everybody deserves some stability and some respite from the rest of the worries of the world. And you should be able to go home at night and go into your place, wherever it is, and lock the door and feel like, I'm going to be all right, at least for the next 8 hours. And I think that should just be a fundamental human right. And maybe the thing is, like, we have to, when we think about this moment, we have to think about it like this is the window to get enough of a consciousness around that as we can see it coming, and before the tidal wave hits, maybe we can, in the next election cycle, like, this needs to be talked about. We're talking about like immigrants, like that's like the gardener is the problem. It's like, no, dude, that's not the problem. We need to be thinking about, what happens when you have no medical care because you don't have a job. 300 million Americans, 150 million of them are working, and most of those only have medical coverage if they're working full time for an employer that provides it. And then, even then, if you have the coverage, it's designed so that you can never really use it.
Yeah.
So if you lose your job, the fear of knowing that if you get sick, you're dead, or your family can't go to the doctor, that keeps people in a psychological prison. And employers fucking love it. They love that shit. That's why they don't want a public healthcare option in the United States. I'm convinced. And I'm worried that, like, we're going to, like, whatever leverage we think we have now, we've maybe got 10 years of it left, and then it's going to be completely gone and it won't really matter.
That's what really puzzles me about the U.S. Health system, because here in Mexico, we have a really accessible one, and it's nationwide. And you guys have always struggled with that. It's really expensive to get anything done in the U.S., and I've never understood that. I don't know, it's so wild. I just wanted to say one thing before we leave, that I think humans have an immense capability for adaptation, most of us, and we just have to remember that we can help those who don't. And if we maintain our mentality there, I think we'll be okay. We'll survive, most of us, I think, whatever happens.
Mm-hmm. I hope so.
Yeah.
I think on that note, we're going to pivot to the Discord server for a few minutes, and we'll chit chat there with anybody who wants to come join us. And we'll pick it up there. If you have questions, you can come hang out with us for a few minutes, and we'll be answering those. Thanks for watching, everybody. And hey, it was great. We balanced this thing out. We had a little fun in the beginning, and then we worked in a little Doomer Friday energy at the end. Thanks, Xander. That was great. If you haven't already, please consider subscribing. Don't forget to like and share, and leave a comment. Let us know how you feel about all this stuff. I'm curious. What do you think? Tic Tac? Alien? Or Lockheed? I have a little alien right here. I'll see you in the Discord
AI.
server.
Or AI.
Or AI. Okay. All right. All right, gang. I'll see you on the next one. Until then, keep it going.